If you're a parent and you've been feeling that little knot of worry about your child's reading, you are in exactly the right place. Today, we're going to talk all about dyslexia, what it really is, what signs to look for, and most importantly, how you can help your child get the support they need to absolutely shine. All right, let's get into it. You know that feeling when you see your kid, who is so smart and so curious about everything, just hit a wall when they look at a page of words? It's a feeling so many parents have, and it can make you feel worried and maybe even a little isolated. But I really want you to hear this. You are so not alone, and there are real, concrete answers and paths forward. So here's our game plan for this explainer. First, we're going to figure out what dyslexia actually is and bust some of those old myths. Then, we'll talk about the early signs you can spot. After that, we'll walk through how it's diagnosed. It's not as scary as it sounds. We'll cover your crucial role as your child's #1 advocate. And finally, I'll point you to some amazing resources.
Okay, let's start at square one. What in the world is dyslexia? It's a word that gets thrown around a lot, but honestly, it's widely misunderstood. So let's clear the air and get to the facts. So, according to the National Institute of Child Health and Human Development, or NICHD, dyslexia is a specific learning disability. And the key words here are reading words accurately and with ease. This has absolutely nothing to do with how smart your child is or how hard they're trying. It's a neurological difference in how the brain is wired for language. Let's just tackle the biggest myth right off the bat. Dyslexia is not about kids seeing letters backward. That's a really common misconception. The real issue is something called phonological processing. That's a fancy way of saying the brain has a tough time connecting the sounds of language to the letters that represent them. So for the word cat, connecting the sounds k, t to the letters c-a-t. That's the part that isn't automatic for them.
Okay, so now that we've got a better handle on what it is, what does it actually look like? You know, in your living room when it's homework time, or in the classroom. Knowing these early signs is so important because it's the very first step to getting the right kind of help.
The NICHD gives us some general clues to look out for. Things like having a hard time remembering things, struggling to follow multi-step directions, or even speaking in a way that sounds younger than their age. Now, any one of these things on its own isn't a red flag, but if you're seeing a pattern, it's definitely something to pay attention to.
And here's where we get a bit more specific. The Dyslexia Handbook points to these as hallmarks. Things like struggling to read a single word on a flashcard, or when they come to a new word, they have a really hard time sounding it out. Their reading might sound slow and choppy, and you'll likely see a lot of spelling mistakes that just don't seem to go away, because spelling and reading are two sides of the same coin in the brain.
And does this sound familiar? Boston Children's Hospital points out that for so many parents, homework feels like an absolute battle every single night. And a teacher might say your child seems distracted or inattentive. But think about it. If reading is exhausting and overwhelming, it's no wonder a child would tune out. It's not a focus problem, it's a decoding problem.
Okay, so you're seeing some signs, and you're feeling that concern grow. What do you do next? The whole idea of a formal diagnosis can sound pretty intimidating, I get it. But it's really just a structured process to get clear answers and, more importantly, to build a support plan for your kid. And here's the most important thing to know. There is no one single test for dyslexia. It just doesn't exist. Instead, a diagnosis comes from a really comprehensive look at your child from all angles. And it's done by a group of professionals called a multidisciplinary team.
So who's on this team? Well, you've got people like the school psychologist, your child's teacher, and a dyslexia specialist. But look who's right there at the top of the list. You, the parent. Your observations and your knowledge of your child are absolutely vital. You are an expert on your child and a critical member of this team. Never forget that.
The process usually looks something like this. The team will observe your child in class. They'll gather information from lots of different sources, not just one test score. They'll also check to make sure your child has been getting good, solid reading instruction. Then, and only then, does the whole team sit down together to figure out if your child is eligible for special support. And you should know this process is built on a mountain of solid research. For instance, there was one major 10-year study with 360 kids that really helped scientists pinpoint these specific learning patterns. So when a diagnosis is made, it's based on real, long-term science, which is pretty reassuring. So, once you have that information, or even while you're trying to get it, your role starts to shift. You become your child's most important advocate, their champion. And this, right here, is where you can make all the difference in the world.
I absolutely love this quote from Dr. Brett Miller at the NICHD. He's talking about the child learning to speak up for themselves, which of course is the ultimate goal, right? But that journey starts with you. You're the one who models how to ask for what you need and how to get the tools for success.
So what does that advocacy actually look like in practice? The NICHD has some great examples. It means you request that evaluation in writing. Always get a paper trail. It means asking for specific things in the classroom, like extra time on assignments. It means asking for things like audiobooks, which can be an absolute game changer, letting them learn with their ears while their eyes catch up. It's all about working with the school to create a plan that lets your child succeed. As you step into this new role, just remember, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You are not expected to have all the answers. There are so many incredible resources and organizations out there just waiting to support you.
Here are 3 fantastic places to start. The Learning Disabilities Association of America, the NICHD, which we've mentioned a few times, and the International Dyslexia Association. Their websites are treasure troves of good, reliable information and support for families just like yours. Think of them as part of your team.
And sometimes learning challenges can overlap. So if you're looking for a wider range of strategies, a great resource is the book Tips for Autism and Developmental Delays from Angel's Awesome Books. It's a parent's guide that can offer helpful tips across different developmental needs.
And that brings us here. Realizing your child might have dyslexia can feel overwhelming at first, but it's not the end of the story. It's actually the beginning of a new one. A journey where you get to empower your child with understanding, new tools, and the unshakable confidence that they can and will succeed. The real question isn't if they'll succeed, it's just how we can best help them get there. So, what will your first step be?